all white people are racist.
Wow,
But because they benefit
that's racist.
Talking about race doesn't make it go away. We have to really embrace it. We have to really understand it, because that's, after all, humans created it. So we have to
he's right.
get ourselves out of it.
They're taught not to think about it from a very early age.
No, they're not. Psychedelics cure racism. That is definitely a myth. I would agree with them on this. Psychedelics do not cure anything. So yeah, let's stop picking on white people, please. That's not right. It's racist. Racist. The psychedelic community is known for being predominantly white. And this has led a lot of people to think that it's racist for that reason, and that all white people are racist, and it's problematic. But perhaps there are other reasons that the psychedelic community is predominantly white. Well, I'm going to engage that. I'm going to go into that as I review this video by a community called Chacuna Institute. And they're a psychedelic community based on a racial justice perspective. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment below. I love hearing what you think about this. It also helps to build this channel. Thank you. Let me know what you think about this. I do not condone psychedelic use. I do not think that it's good for everybody. Let's get into it. Now, I want to send a lot of love to the people that made these videos. This video. Despite the things I've said about your ideas. So, let's go.
Psychedelics can provide us with that opportunity to unlearn at a much more rapid pace.
I mean, I think there certainly is, a sense of oneness.
Are these the myths?
You can and do get from psychedelics.
Awakening. Psychedelics can play the role of the awakener.
Yeah, that's a myth. Sorry, I gotta be racial justice. I hate words like that. I gotta stop it. Racial justice. What the hell is that? Like, what is racial justice? How far back? This is my problem with racial justice. I'm gonna stop it. I gotta go back. Okay. I don't like seeing words like that. Struggle for racial justice. How far back are we gonna go? A lot of people that use terms like racial justice, social justice, they don't have a holistic perspective of history. They're only able to see history in the last 500 years, which makes them Eurocentric. Prior to 500 years ago, people that look like me were oppressing people that supposedly are the perpetrators of racism. Hostility toward anti-racism is a problem in the psychedelic community, as evidenced by the online reaction to Black Lives Matter. Postmodern crap said, yeah, I agree with those people that realize nothing is owed to them from 200. They're right. I'm sorry, these are the facts. I couldn't read the person's blah blah blah. It seems like it was written. Yeah, it's true. It's true. When you lose your ego, you lose attachment to all that bullshit. Chacuna invites 4 members of its racial equality to access blah 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 to debunk 6 underpinning this hostility. You can read the screen. Myth number 1: the psychedelic movement doesn't have a problem with diversity. Okay, I'll agree with them with that. I'm gonna speak like this. Most of the people engaged in the psychedelic stuff that I know tend to be European or what I call Hyperborean type or Aryan type. They're Northern European 51st parallel type people. I don't see a ton of Asians, quote unquote, Mongolian type. I'm not talking about Indians. You don't see many of them either. But people from Japan, China, Korea, that sort of thing. I don't see a lot of that. I don't see many Africans. And the reason that I think, to be honest with the reason that is because look, in the African continent, most of those people already have their own power plants and stuff like that. So, and they know how to deal with that shit. So, all right. So yeah, most of the people are Eurocentric, white, whatever.
Spaces are not really composed of a lot of diversity when it comes to people. Like, people don't look like me. People don't look like my friends. That might be black or might be trans or might be Hispanic.
Just look around. Look at the organizations.
We'll try to be kind here. Forgive me, people.
And look at who is running those and who's in charge. Look at the race and ethnicity of the senior scientists and the lead therapists and the CEOs and the board members. And you can certainly see nowhere near representative of the diversity of our country.
Despite people of color being the global majority, psychedelics trials
have been limited almost exclusively to white people, led by white people, designed by white people.
The psychedelic community is still as racist as any other community, with an exception of the expanded consciousness that I indicated for earlier. It might provide greater empathy, but the way in which skin color pervades our consciousness and how it's been played out historically, you're not exempt.
All right, guys, there was so much there there's so many points I wanted to stop, but I tried to at least get to the end of that chapter. I know these people are sincere, they mean well, and I also know they were probably educated in white institutions by white people. There's a lot of white people involved, so it must be oppressive to people that are non-white. Okay, first of all, white is not a race, it's just a social status, right? Because you can go to Brazil, white is different than it is in the United States as it is in Europe. Long discussion, I'm not going to get into it. First and foremost, if these people are educated, which they seem to be, first of all, the lady said these are predominantly white spaces run by white people. How many people of color are running to those experiences? Very few. And the reason is because they have a perspective that the society in which they live is at odds with them. So they already feel that challenge, that fear. Just because you have predominantly white people in something doesn't mean it's racist, doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't mean it's wrong. When she said there's predominantly white people, there's a rational explanation for that. Think about it this way. If you go to the Bwiti community in Gabon and you see all people that are Gabon nationals, they're from the nation of Gabon, and you look and you see they're all like from Gabon, are you going to go like, oh, it's racist, it's oppressing white people? No, that's just, they've been there forever. They've been using it for longer, and white people are new to that. So white people don't get oppressed and get their racial nerves triggered when they see that. They're not better, okay? They're just more curious because the system in which we live is not racist. It's just designed by, for, and it's by and for white people and 51st parallel people. So that means Asians in the 51st parallel and white people. This Eurasia is continent that touches the 51st parallel. So all the people from that part of the world tend to do very well in this system, in this society. When you have a system that's designed by your ancestors and you were acculturated in that system, you're going to thrive and succeed. It's just like the Bwiti culture. I'm going to go back to Gabon. People who've had that tradition passed down are going to do so much better with it, generally, than a white dude from friggin' New York or California. It's usually the Californians, the whites from California, taking all these psychedelics. So they're going to do so much better. Okay? I know I got off on a tangent. Sorry, people. Let's keep going. Myth number 2. Thank you. Psychedelics are not political.
Everybody wants in on, telling people how to not awaken. Think this, don't think that. The media, education has become political. So psychedelic, I think, naturally have become so.
Nothing is apolitical. To define yourself as being outside of politics generally just means that you have bought into the politics to the extent to which they benefit you, and you're ignoring the ways in which they don't benefit others. I'm an academic, and in clinical science, there's long been this argument that our research should be neutral, that good science is unbiased, but the reality is that all good science in that model does is it ignores the way in which it is inherently biased. And psychedelics is no better and no different. If we are doing the work from a stance of neutrality, neutrality is a political stance.
Everything is about race. There's nothing that's not about race. Everything is about gender. Everything is about class. You can't separate any of these processes.
There's this thing called confirmation bias. These are all academic. And one of the things that they have to acknowledge is confirmation bias. So if everything in your mind is about race, then everything will be about race. What is confirmation bias? It's self-fulfilling prophecy. You see red dots you are told to look for red dots on the screen. You're going to find red dots on the screen of multicolored dots. This is the test, right? So if you go into this with the idea that everything is political, everything is racial, everything is that, then you're going to have that experience. And the golden age mindset and apex human mindset transcends all of that. People can succeed so much better when they take the lens, the confirmation bias that everything is racist, everything is political. You get rid of it, throw it in the trash can where it belongs, and live your life. I know these people are not meaning to be wrong, but it's this ideology that keeps us stuck. We can do so much more. We can go so much further. But this ideology is what keeps us in the Stone Age, tribalism. Sometimes people are just assholes. Sometimes people are just sad, whatever. And sometimes people don't like the color of your skin. Get over it. Sometimes you go into a situation. Look, I grew up in tiny town USA. Skinheads, neo-Nazis, Ku Klux Klan sympathizers, people joking about lynching me, people throwing things at me as a kid in the 90s. Okay, I went through all that shit. All right? And one of the things that I learned is that at the end of the day, they were awful experiences, unpleasant, painful, whatever, but at the end of the day, we're all human. And even these assholes who are not kind, who are violent, whatever, at the end of the day, they were human. They had pain, they had pleasure, they had love, they had aspirations, they had people they cared about. They had all these things that I have. And so I was in many cases able to get through and understand these people, see their humanity, and say, you know, I forgive them for being knuckleheads. We are human. And if we keep putting on the lens of racism, the lens of politics, we're never going to transcend the Stone Age in which we have kept ourselves.
Well, at first I would say that in a sense we are all one. I mean, we're all made
they can
of the
admit
same
to that.
stuff. We're all on the same planet. Our fates and futures are bound together. So in that sense, yes, we're all one.
Is there any other sense outside of that? Can we understand that and move on? Have you ever seen a FOB, person of color? I'm going to talk like FOB stands for fresh off the boat. So from India, Japan, China, Korea, Europe, all Asia, Africa, wherever you're going to go, right? You see these people come fresh off the boat. Do they come here, racism, 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 racism? No, they come here, opportunity, 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 opportunity. They say, okay, that person is probably going to treat me like shit because I'm in their country, speaking their language, benefiting from their system, and that's okay. Guess what? If that, fair-skinned, light-haired, blue-eyed person came to my country, where we're all darker-skinned, richly pigmented people, we would ostracize them in some way. Why can't people of color grow beyond? God be with me, because I'll say this so. Why can't people of color just grow beyond? Oh, racism. Why can't they just say, yeah, we're all one. We're all part of the same world, and our destinies are tied together. Why can't they just be, yeah, our destinies are tied together, and we're all one, right? Why can't we understand that we are quintessentially one thing? Human.
But at the same time, we're not all treated the same.
Race is not biological. It certainly is not genetic.
Do you want to be treated the same as everybody else? Nobody wants to be treated like anybody. I don't want to be treated like a little girl gets treated. I don't want to be treated like a very attractive white woman gets treated. I like being the Marian man that I am. I love who I am. I love what I am in the world. So, yeah, we all get treated differently, and that's a gift. That's a blessing. That's a wonderful thing. You can see it as a curse, but, that's on you.
But it is absolutely real when we put it in the context of a social construct that has power and then can determine people's lives.
I really feel like that saying, see no color. I don't see you as a color. I see you as a person.
Only see one race. Ugh. The human race.
Once upon a time that was seen as something.
She does. Okay, I see one race, the human race. She's a little annoying. Okay, I get it. She looks annoying just because of the way it is and whatever. But she may be sincere. This is the thing that's sad about all of this, is that girl who's saying, I just see one race, she really is attempting to move beyond the past and to really embrace people for who they are. And if you have a relationship with a woman like that and you really love her and you care about her, you're going to be honest about things you see in her behavior that you don't like. And guess what? That's relationship. You let her know. And hopefully she's open to that. If she's, a mature human being, which if she really loves you, she will be mature. And she's like, yeah, okay, I noticed that I did this. Okay, I'll work on it. That's just how we move forward, is by working on things and getting through it. Not being babies. I'll keep it going.
Something positive, and it never resonated well with me. Because I thought, well, if you're not seeing all of me, then that's exactly right. You're not seeing all of me.
Is all of you your color? No, you're so much more than that.
Therefore, you're not seeing all of yourself.
Right. It's not like these identities that we put so much emphasis on, don't exist. They do exist, and people identify themselves through these particular categories. And so to ignore them and not address the elephant in the room again is problematic.
I agree with him. Let's be honest. Let's love ourselves enough to own our identities. And I do appreciate that statement. I think that's completely accurate. We all have different identities. Let's honor it. Let's own it. Let's love it. And let's keep it trucking.
Ignores and erases aspects of a person's history.
White people, they don't think of their whiteness as one of their defining characteristics. They don't think about themselves in those terms. They're taught not to think about it from a very early age.
No, they're not. Lady, nobody's taught not to think about your race. Everybody's born not thinking about your race. So they're going to say, okay, white people, white people, white people. Notice how they always point their finger at white people. Why don't they talk about racism in other forms, right? Among people of color. So, yeah, let's stop picking on white people, please. That's not right. It's racist. Racist. White people are just healthy in that respect, that they don't think about their race, and they shouldn't. And I think that's healthy. And if you're white and watching this, stop thinking about your race. Don't let people of color bully you into thinking about your race.
I'd be very curious to know who are the people that say that their psychedelic journey has nothing to do with race. And I'd be willing to bet that it's people that are relatively privileged, certainly privileged along the lines of...
I would imagine that people that have psychedelic journeys are not thinking about race when they're having their soul blasted out into the center of the universe and they're seeing the very essence and substrate of reality. I would think that race would be something very superficial to all of that. I personally have a lot of privilege. I have Marian privilege. That means that I have a connection to the source of life in a way that I really like.
Race, but potentially privileged along many other lines as well, where they don't have marginalized identities that get that become part of the focus during their psychedelic journeys.
Whereas a person of color who's going through a psychedelic trip, right, would potentially have to deal with or to call into the center of their mind experiences that have happened to them because of their race, such as being followed while black.
Okay.
In a store, or
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think, I look at people like me. I think, okay, we're very rational people. We don't say a lot of this shit, okay? Because he says when white people have a psychedelic journey, this and that and the other, but when people of color have them, they say, is it seriously like that? This is not true. This is not reality, people. I'm so. I want to be nicer about this. But the Creator made me the way that I am. And this is an honest and authentic response to this. Let's keep it going. It's hard to get through this, guys. Sorry.
Or
keep
being
stopping.
pulled over or heaven forbid being shot to death.
And then look, and then they're gonna this is confirmation they want to feed you with all of this negative perspective, all of this stuff that gets you kind of riled up emotionally so that you can feel the heat and the anger of racism. When I was growing up, I was fed a lot of this imagery. But let's juxtapose it to imagery of police officers brutalizing white people. Okay, let's keep it going. Pardon all the bullshit imagery.
Because my experiences with people of color is that when they are in that healing space with psychedelic medicines, there are themes directly relevant to their marginalized identities that come forward. That their healing around painful histories around race come forward. That their healing around events that may
that's
be
important.
Race-based, where they were done harm, that's part of the work.
But not
what she said is important. Okay, trauma is trauma is trauma. Doesn't matter if it was related to race or anything else. But if trauma related to race does come up in the psychedelic experience, that is a real thing, and I will cop to that. I mean, I will definitely admit to that, because look, if you have had rape trauma and you're a female, because rape trauma happens to males too. If you've had a rape trauma and you're a female, it's probably best that you sit with a female if you're going to have these sorts of experiences, and that's just being rational, right? If you have race trauma, You were chased by the Klan, or the skinheads beat you up, something like that, or cops, all white cops did something to you that was really uncalled for, then you're probably going to want to sit with someone that doesn't look like that. Okay, perhaps. But you know what? Sitting with someone that looks like that could be the most healing thing, and them showing you compassion and love and caring and understanding.
Talking about race doesn't make it go away. We have to really embrace it. We have to really understand it, because that's, after all, humans created it. So we have to get ourselves out of it. And one of the ways we do it is by sharing information, reading, reflecting, having deep, important conversations about its history, about the processes.
Okay, so again, these people have a white supremacist, Eurocentric perspective of history. They are not recognizing that human history is tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of years old. Okay, let's start there. And they're not respecting our history, me as a Marian, having tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years of history on this planet. They're not respecting the hundreds of thousands of years. They're just focusing on that 200, 300 years of existence. So, we've got to grow up, people. We really have to transcend all of this.
That arose in society that gave racism
and they love these images of people getting beat up by the cops.
Today.
They love
that.
Turn on.
It would behoove the psychedelic community, I believe, to embrace these categories, if nothing more, to upend them.
All right, you've heard what I said about it. Psychedelics cure racism. That is definitely a myth. I would agree with them on this. Psychedelics do not cure anything. They just give you a broader perspective and give you based on what I've read in the literature, they give you a broader perspective, right, that helps you to deal with more data. It's that simple. Psychedelics do not cure racism. I 100% agree with them on that.
Well, if we consider this idea that psychedelics in and of themselves are enough to heal the world, that if we just got everybody taking psychedelics, we would eliminate all of the major world isms, racism, classism, sexism, heterosexism, those will all go away if we all kind of came together under this psychedelic haze.
Well, I would say if that were true, then the psychedelic communities wouldn't still be racist, but they are, so clearly that doesn't work.
Having a psychedelic
she assumes they're racist. Okay.
Does not make you less racist, right? Because typically you're looking at your psychedelic experience through the prism of the individual.
If they go into that use with the intention of working out their own racism and working out their own biases, I think it could be really helpful. But, if they're taking the psychedelics because they really want to experience the music they're listening to or connect better with their partner, there's no reason to think that it's going to just sort of automatically cure your racism.
Perfect. I agree 100%. So right on that. Beautiful. Agree 100%. Yeah.
Is very difficult to overcome, and it doesn't get overcome because we took a substance one or two times without it specifically being our intention to heal the ways we've been pathologically socialized to believe in superiority and inferiority of other human beings.
All white people are racist. Not because they do things that are racist.
Wow.
But because they benefit from a racist structure put in place by their forebears.
Okay. So how does he define white people? Does the poor, homeless Irish girl in Ireland, does she get included in that? Right? What about the starving children in Ukraine? Or what about, who is white? All white people racist? That's very anti-academic, and I'm sorry, I cannot support that kind of ideology. It's a big problem. That's a big problem. And even if you want to say all white people are racist and then justify that awful statement by now putting it onto the system. Oh, they're all racist because the system makes them racist. Nope. That's not good enough. It's like saying all black people, and I'm not black. I'll just say black people because it's easy for you to understand that. All black people are dumb, but because they grow up in dumb communities. It's still awful. It's still incorrect. and we can do better. Have any of these people taken psychedelics? The research that I have read would suggest otherwise.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. An act of commission, an act of omission, right? So
that's like saying all men are rapists. Why? Because they're men, and a couple of men have done it throughout history. Oogie. Logic and reason, we can just throw that out the window. We don't need logic. We don't need reason. We can just use our feelings.
Guilty by association. You may not practice racism, but you benefit from by living in white skin.
Living in white skin, god damn. Could a white person ever say this about any other group? Well, all black people are stupid, not because they're naturally stupid, but because they come from jungles where they ate bananas and lived around monkeys. And it's not their fault. It's just that, black people are stupid for the fact they have black skin. Would that work? All right.
So we got a lot of unlearning to do, but psychedelics can provide us with that opportunity to unlearn at a much more rapid pace, and also to make that unlearning permanent. And why would that unlearning be permanent? It's because of what's happening inside the brain, right? We're rewiring circuits in the brain to produce long-lasting change.
Okay, I agree with the last statement he made, but so we're rewiring circuits in the brain to make long-lasting change, right? Okay, but they still have the white skin and still live in a white privileging society, according to his perspective. So you're going to change their brain, fix it, but then you're going to put them back out in a world that's white and racist. You notice the logical, you notice the... I have no problem with the people. It's the ideas. Ideas are destroying the human experience. And people are the tools that ideas use to destroy the human experience. And the ideas in this video are definitely destructive. Very racist. Myth number 5.
The laws on the books...
Okay, that is a myth. Definitely. Agree with them 100%. Drug laws do not affect us all equally. All right. That is so true.
The laws on the books might be the same, but we have a 400...
And the reason is because laws generally don't affect us all easily. If you have less money, less access to resources, the law is going to definitely come down harder on you. And that's just a fact. It's been a fact in human history for thousands of years. If you have access to more resources, access to more knowledge, and more networks, you're going to do better. And one thing that so-called white people in society have developed for themselves is more access to those things. Obviously not all white people, because a lot of white people that are outside of the system, that are poor, that are disenfranchised, that are underprivileged. So the drug laws definitely need to be updated.
100-year legacy of how the use of substances has been disproportionate.
Not true. It's 1550. So it's it's almost a 500-year history. So it's just close enough. But it started in Europe with the Bavarian Beer Act. They started to cut drugs back little by little. But actually it's a 2,000-year history. So no, it's and Europeans have been doing it to each other. The Romans were doing it when they became Christians. They were starting to cut back on some of the substances being used by pagan Europeans. So it's not new people. And these academics these are pseudo. I'm not gonna call them pseudo academics because I know they're very good in their fields. But guys, come on, please look at human history. Don't look at colonial history. Look at human history.
Punished for people of color and has been given a pass for white people.
Today, there's a new epidemic. Smokable cocaine, otherwise known as crack.
We have a history
Megan.
where you could have a kilo of powdered cocaine and you were likely to be sent home with a citation. And certainly if you served any jail time...
Don't try that. Don't try that. We'll walk around with a kilo of cocaine.
But if you took 5 little tiny pieces of cocaine and had them as crack rocks, you could get your first out of 3 strikes that gave you jail time for the rest of your life.
Ugh.
Then you look into things like stop and frisk policies that, although in theory could be applied to anyone, we see that in reality they were applied almost 80% of the time to Black and brown people, and often to Black and brown people in neighborhoods.
You notice how a lot of those cops were Black and brown? So is racism by racism? Is it racism on the racism?
That were highly surveilled by the police already.
I actually know some people that carry substances, I'll leave it at that, in their backpack. Some of them white, some of them Black. And the ones that are white will tell me that a police officer will actually open up the door for them in the subway when he was carrying his bicycle, versus my Black friend who has to really watch out for just carrying a joint because he'll get stopped.
It's quite clear.
Listen, police officers are awesome. They're very friendly. I've had challenging experiences with them, and they were still friendly. They were still very respectful and great. So people are going to treat you the way you treat them. So if you're going around, why would anybody want to be around you? Like, are you crazy? Are you afraid? And if you have this ideology in your mind that everything is racist, everything is political, they're trying to get me, and then you're carrying fucking psychedelics in your bag, which are scheduled whatever they are. Think about confirmation bias and how that impacts your behavior, how you carry yourself. Think about that.
That there are biases. There have been since police departments were established. The laws in the country were made to bring justice to white people.
It's awful.
And injustice to people of color, and that's still happening. And you don't really have to.
And they're gonna fill you with those negative imagery.
This is actually one of those barriers we need to overcome if we're going to really create a psychedelic movement that is encompassing all people. Because people of color in the U.S. particularly have a lot of reasons to be afraid to engage in the psychedelic renaissance.
Now, you could also say that white people in diverse communities have a lot of reason to be afraid of people of color. Just because you have a reason to be afraid, just because you have a reason, doesn't mean that the reason is valid. And it doesn't mean that the reason is benefiting you. Yeah.
In my opinion, the psychedelic community...
That's not a myth. Anti-racism is not your fight if you don't subscribe to that ideology. And I know that's hard. I think what's more important is self-awareness. And when you become self-aware, you realize that what seems to be other is actually a reflection of self. It's a reflection of you. And so if you go out there talking, anti-racism nonsense, then you're just stuck in that cycle of hell, that cycle of purgatory. I say drop it altogether. And some of the easiest people I've found to convert are people who are so-called racists. Because I already know where they're coming from. They have an idea about me that they're not going to bend on. And I'm at peace with that. Some of the most difficult people to connect with are people who think they're anti-racists and they have my back. And those are often the people that I have to discontinue connection with because they put a lens on me. It has nothing to do with who I am. There are people who've gotten upset with me and have tried to pigeonhole me because of the color of my skin. And they were these so-called white saviors. And they were the greatest demons in my life. Whereas I've known people who were Confederate flag wearing, Southerners, who were the nicest, truly genuine, most helpful, honest people that I knew. So I've also known people with swastika tattoos on their neck that protected me from neo-Nazis. So...
and organizations that are committed to advancing psychedelic medicines really should be at the forefront of these issues. And this is because, one, they owe their existence to indigenous populations around the world who brought attention to, made awareness of,
I love this picture.
Gave life to,
Beautiful.
And sustained these sacred plants so that
Beautiful.
they could eventually be used in this movement.
Oh,
White people use...
Northern European white-looking people are natives to their part of the world as well.
Psychedelics mostly don't suffer consequences from that, and certainly there are some people who do, but for the most part, they're fairly protected because of their race or their income or the communities that they're part of or their connections. Whereas there's a lot of people of color who are not protected in the same way, and who's.
So what do we do with the white people that are not protected? The vast majority of white people who are poor and don't have money and get busted for this shit. What do we do about them? Huh? Oh, we just forget about them because their feelings don't matter because they're white. Well, they're not gaining any of the privileges of being white, so what do we do about them?
Who suffer and spend time in jail. And I think that the psychedelic movement can and should be more supportive.
So much I can say about this I can't say on camera.
Of people of color who find themselves in this position and working harder on the front lines to kind of roll back some of these policies. And I think they are doing some of that. I think there could be a lot more done. And again, I think they're sort of well positioned to help in that way.
But on top of that, a psychedelic movement that claims to be based on the social justice and being welcome to all people, that it's about generating health, wellness, and healing, then that should absolutely be at the center of a movement that is reminding the world that Black people's lives matter.
What?
Our world could
Let's
be
hear what they have to
greatly
say.
enhanced if those with a dominant racial identity, instead of saying psychedelics are beyond race, actually used psychedelics to heal racism.
Okay. Oh! I'm sorry. It's important to these people because their jobs are based on this, right? I mean, I get it. You know, I'm not going to get in the way of your bread. Guys, you might want to choose another career because we're moving into a golden age where we are transcending a lot of the childish notions about who we are, what we're doing here in the world. So, yeah, we can definitely use psychedelics to address some of the broken ideas about our separateness as people, all right? But let's not use psychedelics, guys, to further blame white people, ostracize white people, and try and take over what they've built. They built the psychedelic stuff. Gordon and Wasson, McKenna's, all of those, people. They built it. These were white men who built it, and I get it. They took from like Maria Sabina in Mexico. She didn't want them to tell everybody in the world about mushrooms. I get it. But let them have their shit. Build your own. White people have built the whole psychedelic movement. I think it's a stupid movement. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay? I don't subscribe to it. I think it's dumb. All this light and love. Oh, I took psychedelics and it changed my life forever. Okay, bullshit. It probably made you see more shit, and now you can deal with your life a little better. And yeah, I've told people it's great because of the research that I've done. Research I've done is pretty extensive. So I think that it can be a tool for usage if you're safe, if you're in a place where you can utilize it legally or whatever. I think instead what we need to do is allow for bodily autonomy within an advanced Western society, allow people to expose themselves to substances they choose, and then trust the ancestral ways, do research on how they dealt with it, because there was no psychedelic movement among indigenous people.
And not in the way we normally hear about it. We normally hear, well, psychedelics can be very helpful in helping people of color heal from the pain of racial events and race experiences. But instead of that, let's flip it. Where white people who we know will have implicit biases that are out of their control and out of their awareness, just like all of us have. If instead they began to use psychedelics as a...
I do appreciate she said, like all of us have. Can we put a microscope on that? Like all of us have? Like the idea that because you have white skin, you are naturally racist?
Deliberate attempt to heal some of the things that lead them to unknowingly perpetuate racism, to unknowingly contribute to white supremacy. And that if they were using psychedelics to help heal that, Well, that is how we actually have the potential to come to a point where race is no longer a social construct with power or meaning, as well as no longer having any biological background.
I agree with her on that last part. I think that, if you consider yourself white, if you identify as white, and you feel some kind of way about your racial attitudes, and that sort of a thing, and you want to use psychedelics to address that, research has shown that, there's a value there. Okay? I'm going to put it that way. There's a value there. A lot of people who I've talked to, who I've done research with, their experiences have been, very clear that we are one, and perhaps how I see my neighbor, how I treat my neighbor, is something that needs to be addressed. Now, I want to send a lot of love to the people that made these videos. This video. Despite the things I've said about your ideas, I think you're all lovely people. I just think your ideas are shit. And I don't think they're your ideas. I think if you had been exposed to the love that you can experience with a person, regardless of the color of their skin, you would literally want to drop the entire racism argument. But then again, that's me projecting my ideas. And that's perhaps where I can grow. So that's that. Generally, I disagree with everything, but there were a couple myths that I totally agreed with. And I thought that they did a pretty decent job of articulating their ideas, even though I think that their ideas are very problematic and don't have any basis in reality, just based on my experience of reality. So these are my ideas, guys. This is my perspective on it. And, please find your own way, find your own ideas. I do appreciate that they are doing their work, and I do appreciate that they are trying to get more involvement of what they call people of color in the psychedelic community. But I think we should leave the psychedelic community to the whites. I mean, I really think that we should let them have this one. Okay, let's let them have it. Meaning, let them be the majority. It's like sports was given over to, tall Marian type people, NFL, NBA, and those two predominantly, right, was given over to them, right? So let's let them, does that mean if you're white, you can't be in the NBA? No, okay? They're very good white NBA players and NFL players, amazing, right? But predominantly Marian type people, or what you call black people, are dominating in that area. So just let's chill. If you like I like being around white people who have taken psychedelics. I love hearing their stories and doing research with them, and hearing what the growth that they've had, and I think it's beautiful. I do not condone the use of psychedelics. I think that you should make sure that you have professionals that you're working with, even if they're white. If you really want a professional that looks like you, then find someone that looks like you, that you feel like you can trust. It's that simple. But anyway, that's all I have to say about it. It's golden age mindset, people. We're transcending all this stuff, so it's time to move on, time to grow up. We're better than all of this stuff. If you like this video, share, subscribe, comment below, leave comments below, and just let me know what you think. I know I was a bit critical, I was a bit hard. Let me know what you think. Do you think I was too critical? Let me know, and I'll be a little nicer and use kid gloves next time. But God bless them. They're doing their work, and I really do like the work they're doing. I'm glad that they're representing themselves in the community. But I'm not big on the whole psychedelic community thing. I think they're great, and more people should use them in the sense that with professional help. But get therapy. Get therapy. Get therapy with it. Don't just go out, take a shit ton of mushroom and be like, yeah, I'm good. Because you may not be good at all. You may not come back. All right, that's all I got to say about that. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment below. I love hearing what you think about this. It also helps to build this channel. Thank you.